In our modern world, we are surrounded by unseen companions. They live inside our phones, they live in our cars, and even on our wrists. These digital assistants silently count our steps, track our heartbeats, and map our journeys through life. We invite them into our homes and our most private moments, trusting them to help us become healthier, more organized, and more connected. They are the quiet observers of our daily routines, the digital ghosts in the machine of our lives. We rarely think about the vast amounts of data they collect. We don't consider the stories this data could tell if someone knew how to listen. But what happens when that silent observer becomes the key witness to a terrible crime? This is a story about how one of these devices, a simple fitness tracker, did more than just count steps. It became the voice for a victim who could no longer speak. It exposed a carefully constructed web of lies, revealing a horrifying truth meant to stay hidden. The data it held was not just numbers and graphs, it was a digital breadcrumb trail left in the final, terrifying moments of a woman's life. This case pushes us to ask a chilling question in nasinobubines. Per non-kristikuastiner, pritsatsasinobur in nasinabenshin in an anzoberoden on. For nasina, where nasin destino, where technology records everything, can anyone truly get away with murder? The answer, investigators discovered, was written in the silent language of ones and zeros. The crime appeared straightforward at first glance. It seemed like a tragic, random act of violence. A home invasion gone wrong, a life cut short by a brutal intruder. The story told by the lone survivor was heartbreaking and convincing. All the physical evidence at the scene seemed to support that narrative. Detectives followed standard procedures, chased leads, searched for a faceless monster who had shattered a peaceful home. They had no reason to doubt what they were told. They were looking for a ghost, a phantom who vanished into the night, leaving only devastation. But an invisible witness was waiting to be discovered. A tiny piece of technology, no bigger than a watch, held the key to unlocking the case. This device had recorded everything. It knew the truth about what happened inside that house. Its data logs painted a picture alarmingly different from the official story. The digital evidence contradicted every lie and exposed every inconsistency. It was a ghost in the machine about to lead detectives down a path they never expected, directly to a killer hiding in plain sight, certain their secrets were safe. Connie and Richard Debate lived in a beautiful home in the quiet, picturesque town of Ellington, Connecticut. To their friends and neighbors, they had the perfect life. They had 2 young sons, a strong marriage, and a bright future ahead of them. Connie was a pharmaceutical representative, known for her warm smile and generous spirit. She was a devoted mother, deeply involved in her community, and loved by everyone who knew her. Richard was a computer network administrator, a family man who seemed to adore his wife and children. Their life was a portrait of suburban happiness, a peaceful existence in a safe and friendly town where terrible things were not supposed to happen. The morning of December 23, 2015, began like any other in the Debate household. The day was filled with the normal, happy chaos of a family getting ready for Christmas. Connie had just returned from a spin class at the local YMCA. The boys were off at school. The house was calm, but this ordinary morning would soon turn into a scene of unimaginable horror. Just before 9 a.m., a silent alarm was triggered at the Debate residence, sending a signal to the local alarm company. The peaceful quiet of the suburban street was about to be broken by the sound of sirens, signaling a tragedy that would stun the small community to its core. When police arrived at the house, they found a shocking scene. Richard Debate was on the floor, partially tied to a folding chair. He had superficial cuts and burn marks. He told the officers a terrifying story. He claimed a masked intruder had broken into their home, a large man with a deep voice, like the actor Vin Diesel. According to Richard, this intruder had attacked him, tied him up, demanded money and credit cards. He said the man then went upstairs, where he confronted Connie. Richard heard a struggle, followed by a gunshot. The intruder then tried to burn Richard before fleeing the scene just as the police were arriving. The story was horrific, and Richard's injuries seemed to back it up. Upstairs, officers made a devastating discovery. They found Connie Debate in the basement, dead from multiple gunshot wounds. The scene was chaotic, and the story of a violent home invasion seemed plausible. The community was gripped by fear, believing a dangerous killer was on the loose. Investigators launched a massive manhunt, searching for the masked intruder Richard had described. They had every reason to believe the grieving husband, a victim who had narrowly escaped with his own life. But one small detail One piece of modern technology would soon unravel everything. Connie DeBate was the heart of her family, and a bright light in her community. At 39, she had built a life many would envy, not for material wealth but for love and friendship. She was a dedicated pharmaceutical representative, a job that required intelligence and deep empathy. Friends said she was always smiling, always willing to lend a hand, always putting others before herself. The investigation began with a full-scale hunt for the phantom intruder Richard DeBate had described. State police dedicated enormous resources believing a violent and unpredictable killer was roaming free. They deployed tactical teams to sweep the dense woods surrounding the DeBate home, a landscape made challenging by the cold December weather and rugged terrain. Officers on foot, aerial support from helicopters meticulously combed through acres of forest, searching for a person in camouflage, a discarded weapon, a footprint in the mud. The description of a large man with a Vin Diesel voice was broadcast to law enforcement agencies across the state, creating a high-stakes search for a man who seemed to have materialized out of thin air. Detectives worked tirelessly, chasing down every possible lead that stemmed from Richard's story. They interviewed neighbors on Birchview Drive and the surrounding streets, asking if anyone had seen a strange vehicle or an unfamiliar person in the area that morning. The answer was a resounding no. The quiet suburban street had been just that, quiet. While the manhunt for the intruder continued, a separate team of investigators began a painstaking review of Richard DeBate's detailed account. They walked him through the timeline of events over and over again, documenting every detail he could recall. He described being ambushed upon entering his home, being tied to a chair, and listening to the horrific struggle upstairs. He recounted the intruder tormenting him with a blowtorch before fleeing just as the police arrived. However, the more detectives listened, the more they began to notice small but significant inconsistencies. Certain parts of the timeline didn't quite add up, and some of his descriptions felt rehearsed. One of the first major cracks appeared when forensic experts analyzed Richard's injuries. Yet, medical examiners noted that the wounds were remarkably slight for such a violent struggle. They were not consistent with a person fighting for their life against a much larger assailant. The zip ties were loose and he was only partially restrained. It seemed more like a staged scene than the work of a ruthless killer trying to incapacitate a victim. The timeline Richard provided also began to unravel under scrutiny. Richard became more defensive. His answers grew more convoluted as he tried to patch holes in his narrative. They obtained search warrants for his electronic devices, his phone, his computer, his work email. There they found the first hints of a double life. The data revealed an extramarital affair. The woman was pregnant with his child, a baby that was due soon. The discovery was a bombshell. It shattered the illusion of a happy marriage and provided investigators with a powerful, classic motive. With their suspicions growing, investigators decided to bring in one of their most reliable, if unconventional teams, the K9 unit. The goal was to see if a dog could pick up the scent of an intruder. If Richard's story was true, a trained K9 should be able to follow the phantom's trail from the house into the surrounding woods, but failed to pick up any scent trail leading away from the house. There was no trace of anyone having recently fled the property. The K9 handler then performed another test. The dog was led through the house, attempting to trace the intruder's path as Richard had described it. But the most damning moment came when the dog did alert, not to an unknown scent, but to Richard's. It was a powerful, non-human testimony that directly contradicted the core of Richard's story. The dogs didn't lie, and their noses told a very different story. The investigation had reached a stalemate. Richard DeBate's story was riddled with holes. That voice came from the most unexpected of places. It belonged to Connie DeBate herself in a way. It was a black Fitbit Alta, the device she used at the gym and throughout her day. But one tech-savvy detective had an idea. What if the Fitbit had a story to tell? A request went to the Connecticut State Police Major Crime Squad's Digital Investigation Unit. They were asked to extract any and all data from the Fitbit. The data came back, and it was a revelation. The Fitbit had been silently recording. It created a precise, second-by-second log of Connie's final hour. It tracked her heart rate. It tracked her movements. It tracked the number of steps she took. This wasn't a subjective memory clouded by trauma, nor a self-serving lie designed to mislead. This was cold, hard data. a digital ghost in the machine that captured the truth of her last moments, and it was about to blow the case wide open. Richard DeBate had given the police a very specific sequence of events. According to his story, Connie was attacked and shot shortly after she entered the house, sometime around 9:05 a.m. They confirmed Connie's movements before she arrived home. The key card system at the YMCA showed she had scanned in for her class and scanned out at 8:46 a.m. The data showed that at 9:18 a.m., Connie was logged into her Facebook account from her cell phone, posting 2 videos with a comment. This was 13 minutes after Richard claimed she had been shot and killed by the intruder. The most damning evidence was yet to come, deep within the Fitbit's activity logs. For nearly an hour after Richard claimed she had been killed, her Fitbit continued to record movement. Between 9:18 a.m., the time of her Facebook post, and 10:05 a.m., the moment the device stopped recording movement for good, Connie's Fitbit registered a total of 1,217 steps. This was the clear, rhythmic data of someone walking. 1,217 steps became the central pillar of the prosecution's case. It was an impossible number if Richard's story were true. The data showed Connie moving around her own home, covering significant distance. The panic alarm at the DeBate home was triggered at 10:11 a.m., just 6 minutes after Connie's Fitbit recorded its final step. Armed with undeniable evidence, investigators confronted Richard one last time. They laid out the timeline, the one told by the data. Faced with irrefutable digital evidence, his composure broke. His story unraveled. He abandoned the masked intruder story, admitted a struggle with Connie. He claimed an argument over an affair and that the gun went off accidentally during the fight. The Fitbit, meant for health, had given voice to the dead. The truth of Connie DeBate's final moments would be heard in court, leading to the unraveling of her killer. The trial of Richard DeBate was a landmark case in the history of digital forensics. It was a courtroom battle that pitted a man's elaborate lies against the silent, objective testimony of a machine. They detailed the affair, they detailed the pregnancy, they detailed the financial pressures that gave Richard a motive to kill. They highlighted the suspicious nature of his injuries. They showed the K-9 unit's failure to find any trace of an intruder. The prosecution countered with expert testimony. Forensic specialists explained the accelerometer technology. They explained the algorithms that distinguish intentional steps from random jitters. In the end, the jury was convinced by the story the data told. On April 22, 2022, nearly 7 years after the crime, the jury delivered its verdict. Guilty of murder. Guilty of tampering with physical evidence. Guilty of making a false statement. The verdict of the machine had been affirmed by the verdict of his peers. The digital ghost had finally helped deliver justice. Richard DeBate was sentenced to 65 years in prison. The judge spoke of the brutal and calculated nature of the crime. Connie DeBate was more than just a collection of data points on a timeline. A vibrant, loving woman, a devoted mother, a cherished friend, and a beloved member of her community. Her life was brutally cut short by an act of intimate betrayal, leaving behind 2 young sons to grow up without their mother. The case serves as a heartbreaking reminder that behind the fascinating forensics and technological twists of true crime stories, there is always a real and devastating human tragedy. We pay tribute to Connie not just for the unique way her murder was solved, but for the life she lived. This case forces us to reflect on the world we have built, a world where our every move can leave a permanent digital trace. We carry silent witnesses in our pockets and on our wrists, devices that record our truths, even when we try to conceal them. This can be a chilling thought, a reminder of the erosion of privacy in the modern age. But as the DeBate case shows, it can also be a powerful force for good, a way to uncover the truth when all other paths have gone cold. The story of Connie DeBate and her Fitbit suggests that the answer is no. It shows that truth has found new ways to surface through the hum of servers and the silent language of data. For those who seek to hide their darkest deeds, there is a new kind of fear, the fear of the unseen witness, the digital ghost that is always watching and always ready to tell its story.